Hey everyone, so I wanted to do some live testing of SWE-1 since it was actually officially released yesterday, and I was pretty busy and I wanted to make sure that I gave you guys something that was pretty interesting. So I'm going to wait a little bit to see what people are doing on Saturday. Admittedly, I didn't pick the best time to do this. Probably should have done this last night, but we will see who is maybe going to show up. So the idea here is I have two windsurf instances right next to each other. On the left, I have the new SWE-1 model, and on the right, I have Claude 3.5 Sonnet. And I think I might actually initially start with, well, I have 3.7. I'm going to set this to 3.5, even though it's the same price. And I want to see what we can get done here. So the benchmark I chose, I'm going to wait a little bit to describe it, but it's pretty common. And if I get enough people actually watching this stream, it'll be cool to maybe see what you guys want to see. Just because these benchmarks have evolved quite a bit and it's pretty interesting. I'm also curious if anyone has used this model yet. I have not. This is actually my first time messing around with it. And I know some people who've used this for vibe coding recently, but I'm not exactly sure what their thoughts are. Okay, cool. So we have 4 people here now. I'm going to let it get a little bit higher, and then we're going to start benchmarking here. I am going to try to run these side by side, and yes, I am using Windsurf Pro, which is why for now this is actually free for me. So again, on the left we have SWE-1, as you can see here. Right now, Windsurf has 2 models available. It makes sense that SWE-1 Mini is probably just integrated already because it's only meant to do tab completion. So yeah, I have the SWE-1, which is free for a limited time. If you don't have Pro, you can still use SWE-1 Lite. And yeah, so I think since we have a handful of people here on a Saturday afternoon, I'm going to get this started. So in theory, this should give us a preview in Three.js, but this initially was in Python, but I think Three.js is actually a little bit harder. So let's see what we get. So I'm going to do start here, and let's see what happens. So SWE-1 is actually giving us the HTML first, starting with one piece as opposed to making a plan. It looks like Claude 3.5 told us the overall files it was going to give us, and now is starting to get into some of the CSS. At a high level, SWE-1 looks to be thinking a little bit slower, but it's working in code first as opposed to the easiest parts first. It's actually doing core logic for the animation with all the physics, and it looks like Sonnet 3.5 is actually just kind of churning on the main logic now as well. It also looks like some of this is more like SWE-1 is showing us the code in real time, and a lot of times it seems like the interface to Claude Sonnet 3.5 waits for large chunks to come back as opposed to giving us kind of a streaming setup. And let's see if, okay. So I want to see what files this gave us. So this actually didn't, oh, we're in chat. That would be one reason. Okay, so now I'm actually going to rerun the same prompt in the actual writing interface. So it's cool to see in chat what it'll show us because we didn't really get a lot from Claude Sonnet 3.5. And what is cool is we got more of a plan initially from Claude Sonnet 3.5 with bits of code, and now it'll be really interesting to see what happens when we actually get the code. So here we go. And now we're actually generating files, and both of these finished about the same time. SWE-1 appeared to be slower, but actually finished writing what it wanted. I probably should have put these in YOLO mode where they'll just kind of write their own thing. Right now, Sonnet 3.5 is asking to run a bunch of terminal commands. So it actually is using a Python server, which for some reason Sonnet 3.5 really likes to do, even though I told it to use Three.js, which you'd think would have it just set up like a little Express server real quick. So it's not looking good for Sonnet 3.5 at this point. Let me see here. I can't see the Three.js preview. Just getting error. Please use an Express server and write this as a JS project. I should see this as a live project using Express. All right, so a bit of a miss in both cases, but let's see what happens here. Worst case, I might just start like a new chat for each of these, or a new kind of writer implementation, and we'll go from there. Because this is still in write, and SWE-1 actually has not given us files yet, which is odd. So maybe it just is representing context in a wildly different way. But let's see here. And I'm using a prompt that has actually been used outside of what I'm doing before. And there's no reason these shouldn't be able to get these actually represented in a web server. So let's see here. Okay, so 3.5 is still going. In theory, we should have a web server. So it's weird as SWE-1 appears to be confused. All right, so I'm just going to start a new conversation, and we'll go from there, because it's not actually running commands at all, which is a little bit odd. Okay. Yeah, let me see here. So I'm actually going to stop this just so we can have an accurate comparison. I'm actually going to delete all these as well. And we'll go from there. So this has been a little bit rough initially. I did not think that SWE-1 would actually fail to even create files, which is you know, a little weird, but let's see if we can get here. I'm going to close this preview. And I'm actually going to switch to 3.7 Sonnet, not thinking, but this 3.7. Okay, I'm going to say this should run in browser using a full npm project and use Express. All right, so just so you guys can see here, I'm going to get the same over here, and let's try this again. Okay, so again, it's showing, all right, good. So now that's a weird quirk of SWE-1 already. So it's actually, it only makes code, so you can't chat and then switch into write. That was a really interesting one, which is something we didn't really have to do with Sonnet 3.7. So let's see here. So this is setting up the project. Actually writing code this time, which is good. Let's see what happens here. It looks like Sonnet 3.7 is sifting through diffs a bit faster. And the other thing is the interface, I guess this is to be expected, excuse me, is expected, but the chat experience and the writing experience with SWE-1 is quite a bit different, which is surprising. All right, so it's a little hung up in writing main.js. And this task is relatively simple. You know, I'm just asking it to animate a rotating shape with balls in it bouncing around with realistic physics. So, okay, there we go. We added 183 lines. Just got through the index HTML. And another thing that appears to be common is that Sonnet always looks to be starting with logic and then moves to kind of write around it. And the opposite appears to be happening with with SWE-1, which is interesting. Yeah, all right, so the answer to Hatham is it's interesting. Not as good as I would have thought. It's, you know, trying to run the server before installing dependencies. I wonder how good they thought kind of the all-in-all project progress of this. And granted, neither of these have rules, or like a cursor rules equivalent, because to write cursor rules or rules for these models, it's so model dependent, it doesn't really make sense in my opinion. All right, so it's trying to run again on here. Let's see if we get, okay, let me see here. Show me a preview in browser. See if it understands this. Yeah, Sonnet will basically give me the prompt to actually. All right, here we go. So preview. Interesting. Okay, so the shape is really broke. It gave us a three-dimensional shape. That is interesting. Okay, so that we'll let that finish. Let me see. I don't know what Sonnet 3.7 is doing. It's doing something with Three.js modules. I'm gonna have it change the line color so you can actually see the shape. Change the line color of the rotating shape from black to bright. See if it applies this change, and then after that I'm going to see how long it takes to actually get it to what I want it to be, because single shot this is actually not going very well. But it's interesting to see because there's some physics going on, because this one ball over here is just spinning around like crazy, and in the meantime Sonnet 3.5 or Sonnet 3.7 over here is still thinking a bit. Let's see here. All right, so this is running now. Got some kind of an error. Okay, all right, so it's running on the same port. So it's going to give us another port here, which makes sense. It's actually something Windsurf is pretty good at. Let's see here. Sorry, so which one do you guys think is going better so far? Because we got a result, but the thing is this is not exactly what this benchmark is supposed to look like. Ideally, this should look like a rotating two-dimensional octagon with the balls being affected by gravity. And it just doesn't look like. All right, so open preview. And let's see what we get. So it looks like I'm not seeing anything actually. So I wonder, this is a curious, all right, so I don't see any animation in the preview. I'm not saying whoever made this cherry picked this, but Claude 3.7 also is not exactly doing what we want here. So I'm going to open. The preview's already open. Picked a really interesting port, but this is connected. It's not. We'll see here. These changes did not. Well, let me refresh this. There we go. So the funny thing is, this has given us a three-dimensional octagon. So it's tried really hard, but I don't think gravity is really being affected here, which is interesting. All right, so we see, I think it's just like any other model, company trying to go with a trend. Yeah, it's hard to see. This is okay. I just would have thought that this would have actually been better day one. The funny thing is Sonnet 3.7 has totally dropped the ball here as well. Yeah, Sonnet is one of the best. Granted, this is a bit different because I didn't give it any rules, and I told it to do this in Three.js, not in Pygame. So I might try to see if I can use Windsurf Preview with Pygame, but I feel like Pygame is cheating because there are a lot of existing projects that probably try to simulate ball physics with that. So let's see here. And it looks like Sonnet 3.7 is really kind of struggling, which is kind of hilarious. So while Sonnet 3.7 is still trying to get its act together to show us anything, I'm going to start working to see how quickly I can get SWE-1 to get back to what we want. So for those of you who are watching now, I gave a generic rotating octagon benchmark to both these models, and SWE-1 is great. It gave us a three-dimensional simulation, which I guess Three.js is great for, but it's not really what we want. So I'm going to say I want the hexagon to be two-dimensional, and for the balls to have realistic physics and gravity. They should be contained within the rotating hexagon. Let's see what that does. And it looks like Claude 3.7 is still really trying to make this work. I don't know what. You'd think this would be pretty straightforward. I'm going to start arguing with it and treating it badly to see what it gets in Minecraft. But all right, so now SWE-1 is trying to modify this. What's good is when you give it changes, it looks like it really tries to distill what tasks it wants you to do. So it says modify the hexagon to be a 2D shape, update physics to work in 2D, adjust camera angle for a better top-down view. So I didn't ask it to do this, but we'll see what happens. And if you think I'm doing something wrong, or you want me to do something different, or like a command you want me to send to one of these, please leave it in the chat and I'll see what I can do. I do really want to eventually do that as, oh, okay, wow. This is really, all right, so Claude 3.7 has given us a hexagonal impeller with balls that appear to be having really strong centrifugal physics. Like this looks like a fluid simulation kind of a thing. And it gave us an FPS counter, which is really interesting. Okay, that's a new one. I feel like this should be a new benchmark because in my opinion, doing it with Pygame is just too easy. Do you guys think that? I think that'd be kind of cool. Because to pivot this from a 2D animation into something that could eventually be like a fluid dynamics simulation could also be kind of cool. All right, so this is hilarious. So it looks like, and if I refresh this, maybe we can, all right, cool, we can restart it. Yeah, so it's creating all the objects in the camera. We actually can view this in 3D. Oh yeah, so it's like a water wheel. Oh, we can move this around too. I should have done that earlier. Wow. Okay, so SWE-1 actually just gave up. This is something that's kind of interesting. Let me see if it broke it. It didn't break it. Wow, okay, so SWE-1 has given up and is giving us a really long stack trace, which I'm going to stop. So now I'm going to get a little bit more angry with it. So I said, no, I want a 2D simulation, not a 3D simulation. Look at the original prompt I gave you that has all the necessary details. And what's great is all these tokens are free on SWE-1. So let's see what we get here. I think I can also, yeah, I can zoom too. Okay, interesting. So now that we have a impeller bit going on over here, I'm going to give the same directions to Claude Sonnet. So I'm going to say this, and positive reinforcement sometimes works before your mean. So I'm going to say this looks great. However, I was asking for a 2D simulation, not a 3D simulation. Please. Oh, and now the physics are going crazy. Please show me a 2D simulation with the same constraints. Let's see what we get here. All right, so it's still thinking. I don't know. I'm just going to send this through. I'm tired of it working on that. Let's see what happens here. Nematron 235B is an open array. That's pretty cool. Do you use that for coding? What do you use Nematron 235B for? I've never actually looked up what GPUs you would need for that either. Oh wow, so we're still getting this massive. Wow, I've never seen. So it's writing this massive thing. What is it? I don't even know what files it's modifying. Stop showing me this stack trace. Modify the existing code to be a 2D simulation. Okay, so that was kind of weird. It got caught up on what I guess it thought was troubleshooting, and it was just giving me an endless stack trace. So what's interesting with SWE-1 is it doesn't look to be very careful with tokens, because it just spent a large number of them just giving me a stack trace back, which is really pretty frustrating. And the physics that we have in the bouncing balls rotating hexagon titled simulation here are going crazy from Sonnet 3.7. It's also funny to me when these models like try to oh wow, here we go. Okay, so gravity is clearly wrong, and some of these balls are reaching escape velocity to escape the hexagon, which if it's two-dimensional, I don't understand how that's happening. Let me see here. Okay, so it's better, but there's clearly some type of new material these balls are made of where they're multiplying their energy as like there's no conservation of anything. All right, so I'm gonna give it. This is doing well. Sonnet is understanding my changes much better. I'm gonna. Okay, and I'm gonna say please apply these changes I requested to the code now. Yeah, the weird thing with SWE-1 is it seems to get confused when you want it to just come up with code and when you want it to actually make changes, which is good in some sense and is really annoying in others. Like I initially thought this behavior was just because I was switching between write and chat, which probably have very different system prompts, but this is interesting. SWE-1 is still really impressive, don't get me wrong. Like this is the first time they've had it out. It is really, really interesting. And to be fair, Sonnet 3.7 doesn't seem to understand physics yet because all these balls have now reached escape velocity and are now weightless. So let me see here. This is great. However, I need the ball physics to represent real physics and gravity on Earth. Also, the boundary of the hexagon is absolute. Balls should not be able to escape from the hexagon. So let's see what this does here. Okay, interesting. So it doesn't understand how to restart the server. It wants me to kill it manually. Okay, so it's restarting on the same port. Okay. Let me see here. Oh, so that's interesting. So I wonder why it gave me this weird port. That's bizarre. I'm gonna say 3000. Interesting. Okay, so it gave us a very problematic shape. Since we're streaming, I'm not gonna mention what that is. But SWE-1 is spicy. All right, so I'm gonna say make sure the hexagon is a single shape that's arranged properly. There are currently slots between the lines you're using to represent the hexagon. All right, let me make sure this isn't still, all right, cool. So it is 2D, that's good. A little bit problematic though. And all the balls fell out. So the physics are better though, I will say. Like this does make for a much more interesting physics simulation, if that's what you want to call it. This is a nice water wheel of sorts again. And let's see if we do this. Okay, let me see. Okay, all right, so it looks like Sonnet has forgotten what port to run on. All right, let's see. I no longer see the simulation. So we're gonna do some more troubleshooting over here. This is being edited. Oh, okay, so it's not rotating, but SWE-1 is coming back. SWE-1 has now created the right shape, created the right physics, and it still created the hexagon with individual line segments, which is kind of interesting. Okay, so let's see here. Hopefully this should prompt us for a preview since it sees that I closed it. Okay. Okay, so Sonnet 3.7 is closer. We're still having this issue of zero entropy in the universe of Anthropic. It looks like these balls are still gaining energy. So we have endless conservation of energy here, which is interesting if you know anything about physics, but it's still thinking. Oh, we got a cascade error. Okay. Proper Earth physics and strict boundary enforcement. So Anthropic doesn't like strict boundaries. I don't know why. Okay, so it's trying to reset the server here on the SWE-1 side. SWE-1 is now back to winning. The one weird thing is that this system still seems like Windsurf occasionally will just miss entirely what the new preview is using. Oh no, oh no. Okay, so it's spinning again, but all the balls were rendered on the outside. But this should be pretty simple to fix. Sonnet, it's still thinking. I'm just gonna let maybe refresh this. Okay, so the other funny thing, one small thing for the Windsurf devs is it looks like, was it 3002? Oh, that's annoying. All right, so it just, well, it's still working. So Sonnet just broke itself again, but we'll let it go. So let me go back to SWE-1 and I'm gonna say this looks great, but please please create the balls inside, all caps, the hexagon. Let's see what this gives us. And it looks like Sonnet here is running into a bunch of linting errors. So this totally broke on the Sonnet side. This is still rendering balls on the outside randomly. But the gravity looks good. I'm going to be honest there. The gravity looks good. Looks like there's something going on over here. This is still not really going well, if I'm being honest. But interesting. And for those of you who are curious, my favorite benchmark for all of these tools is giving them a generic landing page generated in Lovable and then providing it a bit of documentation and a code snippet from Cloudflare, and then pretty much telling it to implement one of those Cloudflare prove you're human prompts before a form submission. Curiously, in terms of a real-world benchmark that's not just, you know, rendering balls accurately around a sort of revolving shape, that is one of the harder things for these coding models to do, which you'd think would be pretty easy, but let's see here. Improve ball placement, okay? Improve physics, improve visuals. Let me see if it really, no, it's still rendering them on the outside. That's interesting. No, the balls should bounce around the inside of the hexagon. Let's see what we get here. Sonnet 3.7 is chugging, and the entire simulation, or the visualization is still broken. I'm not really sure what it's doing here. SWE-1 is still going at it though. The balls are still on the outside of the shape. They're a little smaller though. I wonder why it did that. That's kind of interesting. It looks like Sonnet 3.7 is caught up in some loop where it's getting all these linter errors that are, yeah, okay, that's interesting. All right, so Sonnet 3.7 might have just hit a block here. It's funny, both of these could do this fine in 3D, but seemingly could not do this fine otherwise. Eventually, I'm going to move on to the next benchmark, which is going to be using, again, Three.js to create a revolving cube, which is something that I've meant to do for, okay, we'll move that around. It's something I've meant to do for, it's like a visual that I want to use in streams in some of my videos. So let's see here, we're restarting the server. We killed the last one. Here's the new one. Nope, it's still on the outside. I'm going to say, why do you keep rendering the balls outside of the hexagon? I explicitly ask the simulation the balls bouncing around the inside of a hexagon. Let's see what we get here. All right, so 3.7 is kind of crashed out here. Again, I can't see the visualization at all. Let's see what we get. SWE-1's applying more changes over here, so we'll see what's going on there. And what else do you guys want to see me try to code between these? This has been pretty interesting, and I hope it also shows you how cherry-picked these are sometimes. 'Cause a lot of times when you see, you know, just like the image, oh, There we go. Okay. So I wonder if that was an issue with Windsurf or... So yeah, so again, another recommendation for the Windsurf team in the preview, if you could make sure that it always looks at what the latest server running is, and then it would still be cool to have the ability to like toggle between desktop and mobile within Windsurf. But it looks like this is working now. So Sonnet, unfortunately, has pulled ahead. Now, granted, Windsurf didn't claim that their SWE-1 model was actually better than Sonnet 3.7. They mentioned that it roughly matched the performance of Sonnet 3.5 against DeepSeek, and I might compare against DeepSeek in just a bit. But let's see. Man, this is interesting. We're not having issues with the simulation. Okay. Let me see here. Oh no, it broke it. That's crazy. All right, so it actually broke it again. But I'm gonna say this is about as good as Sonnet 3.7 got us. Let me see. We're gonna give it SWE-1 one more shot, and it might just not quite be there yet. The great thing is all of this data is going to be used to, in theory, improve SWE-1. So, all right, let me refresh this. Yeah, interesting. Okay, so it's now treating the hexagon as an orbital body, I think, maybe. Oh, and I can click these around. Okay, so there's still somewhat reasonable physics, but it's still treating the hexagon as a single. I'm gonna try one more thing. Make the hexagon hollow and put the balls inside. Let's see what this does. Yeah, it's such a curious thing because these models, you'd think they would be somewhat physics aware, but I wonder why they've given the edge of the hexagon like a static cling. I guess SWE-1 thinks that the hexagon is made of copper and that we're moving it around enough to induce a current, and that the balls themselves can also be statically attracted to the edges of it, which is interesting. And to be fair, the physics here still aren't great. I still kind of wonder what is going on here, but it did get there before SWE-1, and although that's not really that complicated, we'll see. So let me know in the chat what you guys want me to do next. I think I might move on to the revolving cube. It's been 30 minutes, so I think going to the revolving cube might be kind of a good idea. I also nicely asked that you guys like the stream. Hopefully that'll help people find this a bit more easily, and we'll see what we can do there. All right, so we're gonna restart the server. Okay, that's interesting. So we moved the hexagon. Okay, that's interesting. So I can now place them inside the hexagon, but they get ejected immediately. That's okay. Better, but the start position for the balls should be inside the hexagon. Interesting. And I'm also curious what tools you guys generally use to vibe code. This is interesting for sure, but there's a lot to think about here in terms of why this is maybe working well or not working well. What's weird is the physics with SWE-1 are generally better, but Sonnet 3.7 really understood the task significantly more. I'm not going to say that SWE-1 missed it entirely. It had it initially. What's funny is it understood the task better in 3D than it did in 2D. And 3JS you can totally use for 2D and 3D tasks. But this is interesting. Okay, we're going to try one more time here, and then I'm moving on to the next benchmark, which is a revolving 3D cube that will eventually get progressively harder. And if you guys have features you want me to do for this, let me know, because it'll make the live version of this where I let chat on YouTube control it much better, and then hope that the sanitizer I write for that doesn't do something really bad. Okay, so we just broke the entire thing. I'm just going to say I no longer see visualization. Let's see here. Okay, this is still going. Let's see here. Okay, restart the server one more time. Hopefully it'll read those in. Let's see what we can get. So yeah, so we're moving on to the next benchmark in just a bit. Please like the stream, guys. It helps a ton. Thank you for to the one person who liked it. And yeah, we're gonna move on to the next 3D benchmark. We'll see how that goes. All right, so it thinks this is running now. Looks like we have potentially bricked this on the SWE-1 side. SWE-1 did quite well. I'm not going to say it missed entirely, but we got pretty far. Okay, so I'm going to stop this now, and I'm going to go to a fresh task on each of these. We're going to zero out all of this. If you guys want to see this in a Git repo as well, like all the files I used, I'm willing to do that. Just let me know in the chat. So we'll close that. And here for the next one, I'm going to say, please create a revolving 3D cube with a different color on each face and a solid blue background. Use 3JS and npm to create this in a JS project. Show me a live preview in browser when you're done. So copy this over to the 3.7, and we're starting with a write interface, so this should be a bit easier. And here we go. So these still have the choice to make a few design decisions. And all right, so we have accept here. It's making the source root, which is cool. It's something that Cursor sometimes struggles with. Understands there's nothing in there. Probably should have looked to make sure that there were no hidden files, but I'm not going to worry about that for now. Okay. Interesting. So it's making this a Vite project. That's kind of funny. Let's see here. Still going on this side. So we're setting up the project here. Both using npm. Let's see here. Oh, all right, and it opened the preview in the wrong side, but okay, so I bet that did get what I wanted. So that is pretty cool. Let me see. The browser control is a cool feature. I don't like it that much, if I'm being honest. Let me see if I can get back. All right, cool. There, back to YouTube Studio. Let me see here. All right, so show me a preview. Sonnet 3.7 is still going. Let's see here. Okay, so I'm still not getting a browser here. Preview in cursor. Let's see here. So what's funny is I have to prompt it to show me an actual preview in Windsurf sometimes, which is funny. And I had to tell it preview in cursor to give it to preview here. So yeah, SWE-1 nailed it. The animation here is perfect. It's revolving just the way I wanted, and it did everything in CMYK, which is kind of a cool quirk. Let's see what Sonnet gave us. Basically the same thing. All right, now this is actually like a lower hanging benchmark to an extent, but that is interesting. Okay, cool. So for those of you who don't know, it looks like in 3D, if you use this, these both do great. which is kind of interesting. So the next thing I want to do, and it's cool because this was both Sonnet 3.7 and SWE-1 pretty much matching performance. So the next thing I want to add is the ability for the colors on the sides to change dynamically. So I'm going to say, please dynamically randomize the color on each side of the cube. Randomize color. Well, I'm going to do that, and then I'll create a gradient based on adjacent sides. So I'm going to say, please dynamically randomize the color of each side of the cube, changing once every 3 seconds, one face at a time. Do not change the same face. So do not change the same face. Do not change face until another. Do not change the same face 2 times in a row. Should always be a random new face. So I'm going to copy this, and let's see what we get. So again, pretty low-hanging fruit, but let's see what we get here. Why can't I copy that? That's kind of interesting. I'll just type it in here, please. One face at a time. Do not change the same face. Row should always be a random new face. Okay. So we'll see what happens here. This is definitely in B, this is definitely in A. Let's see what happens. The only other really weird quirk I've noticed with Windsurf is at times you'll get prompt bleeds between different Windsurf windows. So if you have 2 Windsurf windows open in completely different root files or root projects, occasionally you'll get drift between them. That is kind of interesting. So let's see what we get here. Because I wonder, like, these are entirely different projects, and I wonder why I was getting color changes on the right side, even though I didn't even prompt it yet, which was kind of interesting. Okay. So these are both still going. Cool. So the next thing I want to do is make this aware of other edges. So I'm going to say, now, first I want to see if I can copy this. All right, cool. I'm going to say, now, when you create a new face, make it a gradient of a new color and one color from an adjacent face. Cool. All right, so let's do that now there, that over here. These changes are all happening pretty quickly, which is pretty cool. The other funny thing is that when you don't give it a physics-aware task and you let it be 3D, it seems like both these models understand significantly more, which would lead me to believe that these models are just better at using Three.js in 3D and might be better at using Pygame in 2D, which is kind of a curious thing. And if you guys are finding this interesting, please like this stream so I can keep doing more of these and we can do more benchmarks against SWE-1 and a number of these coding models in Windsurf. Okay, so these are both kind of thinking more about these. The faces are still changing just fine. but let's see here. The other interesting thing is the randomness of the Sonnet 3.7 preview appears to be far less random than the randomness of what's going on in SWE-1, which is kind of a curious thing. And if you think I'm doing anything wrong or you want me to make any other specific changes, let me know in chat because I'm reading those as you guys go in. Oh, this actually looks pretty cool. Yeah, so the reason it's cool to do adjacent gradients is you occasionally get this really cool effect of like these highlighted edges, which is kind of cool. And man, this actually looks pretty cool. These tools are actually really fun to do graphics things with because previously my only graphics work was when I took like a shaders course in college when I was a senior studying CS, which was really hard and I had like nightmares of being in that class. But the funny thing now is when you do it with vibe coding, it's really, really cool. And if you know enough of the underlying primitives, it's actually really, really fun to mess around with. And that's kind of my general recommendation with this is you have to understand some of the underlying principles, and then it's actually really cool to mess around with. So the final challenge I want to have this try to do is to only change a face when you can't see it. So this requires 3JS to understand what the camera can actually see and what you can actually have being rendered. So I'm going to say here, please only change a face that the camera cannot currently see. Also apply a number, or I'm going to say also render a number that does not change onto each side. Show me a indicator for which side is being changed. So it's kind of a lot, but I want to give it these because in theory it might get really confused. So there's that for SWE-1 from Windsurf, and there's what we're going to send to Sonnet 3.7 from Anthropic. Let's see here. And for the last test, they thought quite a bit about it. The other thing that's interesting here is those were edge gradients as well. Sorry, so we just both got the indicator for... The other funny thing is the size and interface for both of these is identical, even though they're entirely different models, which is interesting. Like I wonder, since there's an A and a B folder that are in the same parent folder, and I wonder if Windsurf is cheating and looking at the parent folder. That may be going on here. But based on the first benchmark, I don't think that'll be, but I'll do that next. In theory, based on the viewer here, this is all that it can see. Unless it's kind of lying to us and cheating a bit. But that should be the root project, which is interesting. All right, so these are still going. I don't see the number yet. This is the first time with SWE-1 I've seen this request taking longer than expected. And I'm not really sure how Windsurf actually decides it's taking longer than expected. Okay, so let's see here. All right, so we don't have numbers on either side, and Sonnet thinks it just finished. Okay. So I'm going to start troubleshooting here. So I'm going to say I don't see a number as text rendered on each face. See what that does. It's still working on the SWE-1 side. Oh, that's funny. So I just reprompted this and it just generated the same. That's really interesting. I feel like something really funky with Windsurf going on when you have two projects in the same parent folder is going on right now, because I've otherwise never seen something like this happen, which is really interesting. Let's say no, the number should be rendered on the face, so it's a fixed to the cube. And I'm going to give this same prompt to Sonnet. I'm going to override it telling us what it did since it didn't do that correctly. Let's see what we get here. And I don't mean to say this is a problem with Windsurf. I just mean it's curious that this is an exact problem. Either like the training data was very similar, or Windsurf is kind of cheating a bit and looking one parent folder up when it really shouldn't be. I'm going to try that later, where I deliberately have two like explicitly different bits here. What is cool is the feature of only changing what I can't see is true, because it understands what's on the bottom or behind, and it says ready, changing a different face. So it understands which face is what. It just doesn't understand how to render text onto them, which is a really funky thing, because you'd think mapping that as pixels onto there would be pretty straightforward. And what do you guys think? Because I've haven't done a lot of graphic stuff with this stuff in just a bit, but okay. So it still doesn't understand what I want to do in terms of giving it, say, no, I want to see the number for a face printed on the side. Let's see here. Let's see here. Because it clearly understands which side is what, it doesn't understand how to print it there, which is such a goofy thing to not understand how to do. I still don't see numbers printed on the faces of. And would you guys want to see code from this? Because this is actually pretty cool. The other animation was not that interesting, but this is actually pretty cool. All right, it's been about an hour, so I'm going to let this finish up, and I will put this up on the channel for you guys to watch. But yeah, I'm curious if you're watching this after the fact, if you want me to see or try different benchmarks other than what I showed in this video, let me know in the comments below, or if you're watching this live, let me know in chat. You see, just say like dice. Oh, that's good actually. I will try that before I close this. Yeah, because this has been pretty cool. The side-by-side is cool too, because you know, it's just interesting to see the speed and kind of how differently they're thinking, and for the history of this, you can go look and see what they're really doing. Let's see here. Ooh. So that's interesting. It broke. I feel like Windsurf is definitely cheating, because it broke both of these at exactly the same time. All right, one more, right? No, you just broke the visualization. I want it to look like dice. And for this one, I'm going to say, please make it look like dice. Do not look outside the root folder for more context. Let's see if it admits to doing that. I'm not really sure why that actually happened. Let's see here. And I wouldn't say it's like a critical error. It would just be a weird thing, because there are other editors I've been able to do this with that it hasn't been an issue, and it's a curious one for using agentic flows too, because for agentic flows, you want it to basically be aware when two different agents are trying to change the same thing, so that you don't enter these endless loops of applying changes and trying to fix changes, where like the problem is actually just another agent trying to make changes. So let's see what we get here. So we canceled an edit. They're both a little locked up. Let me refresh this. I wonder why it's struggling so much with this. Generating. All right, so it's gonna maybe get to the end of this here, and then I want to see if it admits to having more context than I really wanted to give it. Okay. Interesting. Proper six-sided die. All right, one more. Show me a preview. Same thing here. Thinks it restarted the server here. And these are in totally different servers, totally different ports. And at least from here, just in this folder. So totally different routes. I'm gonna close this, open a new one. Huh, that is really weird. So I'm actually gonna submit a ticket on Windsurf's interface to do that, because this is really interesting behavior. But yeah, but thanks for watching me do some benchmarking here. This is really curious. Frankly, I'm really impressed with what Windsurf has been able to achieve here. I think both models showed interesting areas of being very capable and maybe having a bit of work to do. I like doing Three.js as opposed to Pygame benchmarks because Pygame is a little too easy to kind of cheat on for these models, just because it's a little bit less complex than what I think a lot of people want to use these for. And doing it in the form of kind of a web app seems pretty natural in 2025. So yeah, as always, guys, I hope you learned something in this video, and I'll see you in the next one.